intellectually part that stayed with me. But somehow that stayed with me, and my father encouraged me to read a lot of books. He encouraged me to learn languages, and I was able to do, by God's grace, quite well in studies. So the thing is that because of, okay, you could say the environment at one level was, from medical perspective, it was poor. But from a relational perspective, it was a very rich environment. My mother never made me feel as if I was a burden or my leg was a burden. Or it was not that she let herself get beaten up by guilt. Oh, I should have not gone to that doctor. I should have gone to some other doctor. See, in life, what ifs are not very helpful. Sometimes what if can just waste our time completely. So, life is unfair in many ways. We can look at ways in which our environment is impeding us. Say you are here in this country, and especially say, some kids who grow up here. This is Canada. I was in America for a few months before I came here. I started traveling across all over America. Have any of you heard of this concept called ABCD? ABCD? What is ABCD? It is called American Born Confused Desis. So there are, say, kids who are born in America. They by their skin they are brown, but by their culture they would love to be Americans. But they're just not. They're not white. So we could resent the way we are right now. We could feel life is unfair. We can always find something in our environment to be faulty, and that is true. But there are many things in our environment which are favorable also. So my mother pointed to me that, okay, I'm grateful that I had a mother who pointed to me towards my intellectual abilities. So life is unfair, but in the big picture, life is fairly unfair. In some things, our environment ruins us or restricts us. In some things, our environment may also help us. So it's for us to decide which one we'll focus on. If we focus on how life is unfair, we will become resentful. Focus on how life is fair, we will become resourceful. So be resourceful to use whatever is good in our environment and then try to move to a better environment. So our spirituality, our spiritual vision gives us this empowerment. That yes, our environment is there, but it is not our destiny. And it is our environment doesn't doom us. Yes, we go through different environments. Sometimes they are favorable, sometimes not favorable. Use what is favorable and move on with life. So, giving us a big picture that life is a long journey, and right now I may be in this environment, but throughout the journey there is God's plan for my life. So let me not become a prisoner of my environment. Let me make the best of my environment and move on, move towards the environment that is more conducive for my talent. And the last part is, what is the acronym? TECH. So talent, environment and commitment. Now every one of us, we need to work. Nothing, nahi suptasya simhasya pravishanti mukhe mrugha. A tiger or a lion may be the king of the jungle, but it is not that the tiger can sit with the mouth open and a deer will come in its mouth. It has to chase, it has to endeavor. So every one of us has to endeavor to get results. So this commitment, how do we develop that? I mean, say there are so many motivational videos are there. There's so much this, so much that. Now we all need to be committed. So actually, one of the best ways to develop commitment. Now, what does commitment mean in one sense? Commitment can have many different meanings or different aspects to it. Commitment is basically contribution without expectation. Now, I may say, who will want to contribute without having any expectation? But commitment without instant expectation. It is contribution, I will do my part. This is what the Gita 2.47 is about. Karmanyeva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Some people say don't care for the results. That's not what the Gita is telling. The Gita is telling that you do your part, that is your contribution. But don't think your contribution alone is producing the results. There are other factors involved. So don't be fixated on the results. Like, do your part, be committed, have patience. Many of the best things in life take time. So when we keep persevering, then gradually great things happen. When change happens in life, change is quite often evolutionary before it becomes revolutionary. That there are small incremental improvements that happen. It's evolutionary. Every day we are disciplining ourselves, we are developing our talents, we are learning some skills. Now we may not see any difference happening. See, Arjuna every day was practicing archery, he was working extremely hard. One of his names is Gudakesha. He's one who would not sleep at night because he was practicing so earnestly. And then came the moment of glory when he was able to excel everyone else in archery skills. So change is often, improvement or change is often evolutionary before it becomes revolutionary. So this evolutionary phase, to go through this, we need commitment. We may not see any results coming immediately. And one of the things that spirituality does is, spirituality helps us to see life in a bigger perspective. We are spiritual beings. We are not just biological creatures. So what spiritual vision tells us is, life is not a 100-meter sprint. Life is a 100-mile marathon. So even if you fall back initially, in a 100-meter sprint, if you fall back, you are lost. In a 100-mile marathon, even if we have fallen back now, we can pick up speed, we can gain ground later. So one failure is not fatal. Spirituality expands our vision of life, expands our own understanding of what we are doing. One of the problems for people who are not spiritual is they make small things very big. Not everyone, everybody has their temperament, but spirituality expands our conception of life, and that's how each one of us can have that commitment. Now, after having talent, environment and commitment, everything together, still sometimes life may give us a raw deal, and that can be said to be because of past karma. So in spite of Arjuna being so talented, in spite of Arjuna doing everything, being committed, going to good Gurukul, learning everything, still Arjuna faced the loss of his son Abhimanyu. Now that was something beyond his control. That he accepted that's because of past karma. So it is not that just because we do our part, we will always get the results. Or at least we will always get the results on our terms. But when we are practicing spirituality, what will happen is we will be able to make the best of what life offers us. Both in terms of talents that we have and the environments we find ourselves in. And in that way, each one of us can fulfill the destiny that God has for each one of us. I'll summarize what I discussed today. I talked about two main points. First point was about arcs. We're talking about how to make sense or how to convert setback when we face setback in life. For setback, how to make a comeback. How to process failures in life so that we can move towards success. So the theme here was that the word karma has 4 different meanings. A was activity. R was reaction. C was connection. And S was selection. So in connection, that there is a connection between action and reaction. For that, we require intelligence. One aspect of intelligence is to expand, one function of intelligence to expand our frame of reference. So sometimes because of past karma, some actions may not produce immediate results. When that happens, that does not mean that actions don't have results. It's just that the results may not come immediately. In selection, we were discussing that when to ascribe, if there's a setback, do we consider it because of only past karma? Or do we consider only present karma? The result actually is because of both. It could be a combination of both, and we need to deliberate. So both could be there. So how do we deliberate? For that, I talked about, first start with the immediate explanation. So start with the smaller frame of reference and then move towards bigger frames of reference. So like that. Then what does this mean? We discussed about the acronym TECH. That when we are moving from action towards results, there is a 5-plank bridge. And there is the soul, there's talent, environment, commitment, and then there is destiny, Daiva. So after we have crossed through the first 3 bridges, first 3 planks of the bridge, after that we are still not able to reach, then we can say destiny. And you talk about talent, environment, commitment, how each of these we will be able to, through spiritual growth, through spiritual vision and practice, we will be able to discover and develop our talents better. Because what will happen is, normally we look at the world through others' eyes, but spirituality helps us to see through God's eyes. So we can look for what talents we have. With respect to our environment, what happens? When we are functioning in life, if we have a very spiritual, we don't lack a spiritual, either we become attached, where we say physically stay caught in the environment, or we become averse, where we mentally think of ourselves as victims. Because my environment like this or is like this, I am lost. No, we are bigger than our environment, and God has a bigger plan for us than our present environment. So we can see bigger and make the best of our present environment, also try to move towards a better environment. And last is commitment. So commitment means that there is contribution without expectation of immediate results. And that becomes possible because spiritual vision changes our conception of life. What it does is, we see life is not a 100-meter sprint, it is a 100-mile marathon. So even if results are not coming, that doesn't mean everything is doom and gloom. I keep persevering, and each one of us can come to a better place from where we are. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Caitanya Chan Prabhu. Once again, can we give a big round of applause to welcome Prabhu to be here with us and for this wonderful seminar. We'll take a couple of quick questions. So if you have something urgent, something you've been really wanting to ask based on the talk today, please maybe raise your hands and I will come by to give the microphone. Any questions or any reflections from today's presentation? Yes.
Thank you, Prabhu, for the lecture. So, one question in today's time, many people take to suicide. So, where does this fit in this explanation that why those choices are made and why they are led to that?
Suicide is tragic, and I would say in this thing, it is primarily the lack of commitment. But what it means is, I started by saying that we all need to be able to process failure properly. So what happens is, loss is something which we will all experience in life. Now when I experience loss, I could process that loss as I have lost. So I had a job, I lost the job. I had an interview, I did not go through it, I have lost that opportunity. Now that is objective. But we may interpret it as as I am lost. Now this is much more disorienting. Isn't it? It's not just a loss of opportunity, like loss of purpose itself. So this is what the Gita calls the sattva. Sattva is being more objective. Sattvic, look at it. Rajas is we become too emotionally invested in something. But the most toxic is I am a loser. This is toxic, this is tamasic, this tamas. So if we start thinking I am a loser, nobody wants to be a loser. If we were in a relationship with someone who we thought was a loser, we want to break up from that relationship immediately. But if we think we are a loser, can we break up with ourselves? Now we can't, or can we? Suicide is basically like a tragic attempt to break up with oneself. So it is because of too much of a materialistic or extrinsic sense of self-worth and sense of evaluation of success. When things don't work out, we start interpreting that failure as a loss of self-worth and hope completely. So what do? We could say it works at different levels. At the level of spirituality, spirituality can enhance our commitment, but spirituality can also help us to see some talents. Okay, I don't have this talent, but I can work in this area. Spirituality can also put us in a good environment where it is we are not judged by our own failure, only by our failures and condemned because of that. We are encouraged, we are valued. So that way, all three factors can come in, but primarily it is that the inability or the unwillingness to see a bigger picture. That whatever I am going through, it is bad, it can be terrible, but it's a phase. Life is not a 100-meter sprint that I lost this race, that means everything is lost. No, we may lose this race, but we can keep moving forward, things will improve. Okay? Any other questions or comments?
Thank you, Prabhu. Thanks for the question. Thanks for the answer. Anybody else have any question to ask or something to share? Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much for your class. We call Krishna consciousness a scientific process. Then why do we find karma to be not an absolute formula in terms of, we cannot calculate our karmas in terms of how our past has occurred and how our future will be and how we are right now. So why is there no absolute formula to find out what our karma is and how will it turn out to be?
Okay. Is Krishna consciousness a science? Well, yes. But is it just a science? Certainly not. So Krishna consciousness is scientific in the sense that there are certain practices which will produce certain results. So if we follow a particular path, it will give some results. So in that sense, there is a certain predictable element to it. But Krishna consciousness is ultimately the matter of developing a relationship with Krishna. And relationship is not a science. There's no such thing as a science of relationship. You can have some Harvard professor can do a course on science of relationships. But relationships involve a lot of individuality. Each individual, I may do a particular action and that may mean a lot to you, but that may mean nothing to you. Because each one of us is an individual. So there's subjectivity over there. So if we consider even law cannot be mathematical. We may have, okay, for this crime, this punishment will be there. But then we need judges, we need attorneys, because what is the context of the crime? What is the motivation of the person? So karma is not just like blind in the sense of it is blind to context. If somebody did something wrong, did they know it was wrong and did they do it? Did they not know it was wrong and did they do it? Did they mean to hurt someone when they did it? Or they were just caught in their head and they did something which hurt someone else? All those things need to be considered. That's why karma cannot be mathematical. But does it mean it is not scientific? See, even in science, there's a lot of things which are what we call as indeterminate. So they're indeterminate systems. Now we can the whole quantum physics. Now we can use some mathematical equations, but quantum physics is not predictable the way the classical Newtonian physics is. So the universe is not exactly a clockwork, the way Newtonian physics thought. So there is even science itself. Not all of science is completely mathematical. Much of science is, but biology is considered a science. How much of biology is mathematical? You can't really say that. If the doctor gives a particular medication, you said this, you have fracture of this degree, take this much medication, pain medication, you will feel relief from pain. No, doctor can't say that. Okay, you take this much pain medication, if it doesn't relieve of pain, take a little bit more. So life is complex, and science is one tool for understanding it. But science is not the only tool at our disposal, and we cannot reduce all of life itself, the way we experience life, to science. What to speak of reducing our relationship of Krishna to a science. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other quick questions? Anyone? Okay, thank you. Thank you all for being here. Before we conclude, we do want to quickly remind everyone of Prabhu's 2 recent books. As you can see on the right side, we have a book named Gita for the CEO, and as well as prayers from the Bhagavad Gita. Prabhu, do you mind just giving a quick overview of what these books are about?
So, much of what I spoke today is there in this book, Gita for the CEO. Nowadays, a lot of interest in traditional wisdom or medieval classical wisdom, how it can contain some insights for life and leadership. Stoicism from Greece has become popular. Ikigai from Japan has become popular. So HarperCollins is one of the biggest publishers. They wanted me to present the Bhagavad Gita's wisdom. So I have some small conceptographics which explain concepts, and I have presented this book as a conversation between 2 characters. One who, both are in the corporate world, one who knows the Gita, one who wants to know the Gita. And apart from the principle of karma, I talked about, there's essays on, there are 10 principles. There's one on mindfulness, there's one on speech, and how to make our speech more effective. There's also on how to not get disheartened and be resilient when life gives us problems. Also, I talk about talent, how do we observe ourselves more objectively and understand the gifts that we have. So this book is available, and this is prayers inspired by Bhagavad Gita. This has 122 prayers. Each prayer is having a beautiful picture of Krishna that we can pray, and then there's a spiritual affirmation, which is like a 1-line summary prayer. Then there is a verse, and then I had done a poetic rendition of the verse. And after that, there's a 1-page reflection, and there are prayers on for various occasions. So there's a summary of the prayers in a table of contents. So there are prayers when we feel lost and disoriented in life. There are prayers when we feel lonely or abandoned. There are prayers when we feel spiritually dry or spiritually disconnected. There are prayers when we feel our cravings rising too much. So whatever be our particular emotional need, we could turn towards that. We could find something to connect and read that particular passage. So there's one prayer over here. Help me become a spiritual fruit, not a religious nut. So that is how we don't want to get caught in rituals and become dogmatic or sectarian. We want to actually rise to our full potential. So both these books are available, and I'll be here for some time if you have any further questions, or if you'd like to have the book signed. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you so much, Caitanya and Prabhu. The doors will be opening anytime soon. If you would like to get a copy of these books, the Gita for the CEO is for $20, and Prayers Inspired by the Bhagavad Gita is for $25. But if you do plan to get both of them, it's